Hey, welcome. Happy Friday Eve. I'm Ellen, host of Rewind with Ellen, and as usual, I am joined by my co host, Ro Carter. Good evening.
Good evening.
Greetings and salutations.
Yes, how are you?
Um, I'm good. I'm good.
What was
Glad
that? That was
that was like a sigh of the past week just leaving my body. So this past week has been Sundance, all things Sundance Film Festival, and so Black Film was covering all the Black films or documentaries or short films. So there was just a lot of movie watching, which is awesome.
yeah.
Lots of reviews, lots of writing. So definitely check out the website for all our Sundance reviews. That's been my week.
That's exciting.
I mean, yeah, it's been exciting, but also like it's a lot in a wonderful, creative way. So yeah, how are
Well, it's
you?
good you have all this free time.
I mean, yeah, I used to be not busy. Now I can't catch a break. You know what I'm
That's,
saying? I know you know about that. You got like a good 18 things cooking right now creatively. How are
I'm,
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just trying to get my face everywhere I can, you know?
It's
So
working.
could you stop?
I mean, listen, I saw something on Instagram that had me chuckling. I can't really bring it up on here, but you said something that was so funny that it was just like this continuous joke. I forget what it was. It starts with the letter A. You made a joke out of
Oh, yes.
so
It
I
was,
laughed the entire time. Well done, well done.
thank you.
Anyway, yeah, we have a good lineup today, starting with our boy Denzel Washington, the GOAT. His movie just dropped about a week or so ago called The Little Things. And it stars Denzel, like I said. It stars Jared Leto, Rami Malek, and it is set in the 90s, which is actually a cool vibe. And it follows Denzel's character, Deputy Sheriff Joe Deacon, who teams up with the sergeant, who's played by Rami Malek, to hunt a serial killer in Los Angeles. And this would-be serial killer is Jared Leto. His character's name is Albert Sparma. This was a dope throwback thriller. I had expectations of it going into the film, and then I don't want to say that my expectations weren't met. I just think the problem was my expectations, right? I'm used to fast-paced, quick action, quick back and forth dialogue with Denzel, but this was a little bit slow. It was a slow burn, slow paced. It took a second to get to a point where I was okay. All right, I'm in it. I'm with you. But then I loved the ending. It was unexpected. Um, Jared Leto did his thing. I think for me, the star in that movie was Jared Leto, right? Much respect to Denzel and what he does and how he does it. But Jared, ooh, he was a creepy, creepy serial killer person who we don't weren't really clear if he was. What was your take?
Yeah, so I feel like it was a watered down Seven. You know the movie Seven?
Sure, yeah.
It was everything you're saying with that action you wanted, like that ending. I think we've been beat over the head with so much fast pace that it's nice to kind of like just sit back a little bit and just, all right, let the story come and develop. And so you had to have that patience with that. But again, you look at this all-star cast: Denzel, Rami Malek, Jared Leto. I'm like, come on, let's go.
And that's just the top three.
Here's my money. It'd be interesting to see the statistics on whether or not, by all HBO putting all these movies out there, would I have seen this movie in the movie theaters? Like, is it helping or hurting? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because, that first weekend, usually hear anybody who saw it, they'd be like, it's okay. But if you really like those thrillers, and like, you know what, I loved it. So you just really don't know. So I kind of like that I got to watch it through HBO. Don't know how much I would have enjoyed it if I saw it in the movie theaters, just being frustrated. But it was definitely a good story to start. And you saw all levels of Denzel, right? You got the funny Denzel. the aggressive Denzel, I'm not playing around Denzel. So you got a little bit of everything, which was nice to still see him. He still got it. But Rami Malek's character, I really felt that maybe, I don't know, maybe I felt, it's hard to say, right? Maybe he was a little intimidated because I've seen him in other roles, but it's just something was off. Maybe that's just the character that he was playing. He had to play it off. So that's because you didn't know who was doing what at that time. But I felt, and I read this somewhere, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting view. I think Jared Leto could have he killed it. He knocked it out the box. But an interesting take would have been if he would have played the detective, and then Rami Malek's character would have played Jared Leto's character. Because that's how dark I thought Rami was getting with his character. I was like, oh, I need something a little bit more. I felt this character was missing to make up for what the ending was going to be in my eyes. But Jared Leto did his thing. He was very creepy. I mean, for all the ladies that love him and he's beautiful and sexy, he was ew. He definitely had a creep energy.
He underwent a lot of changes to become that role. He got brown eyes, he got a new nose, he got new teeth, he got a limp added to his walk. Like, he was almost unrecognizable. And the thing about Jared Leto is that when he plays a character, he immerses himself in it, and I think that's why it's always so good. I'm a fan of Rami Malek too, and he sort of always plays that same sort of character, right?
That's it. Yeah, it was just like give me something more. Yeah, you nailed it on the head. That was missing. I just needed something a little bit more, especially with Jared Leto bringing his game, and Denzel's going to do his thing. So I was like, ugh, that was the only thing missing for me.
But even with Denzel, we got the same usual Denzel. There was nothing different or like, okay, this is a little quirky. This is far removed from what we're used to. But then again, that's what we love about Denzel Washington. And yes, going back to your 7 comment towards the end, definitely that's what popped into my mind. That scene when they're driving into the desert. It's not really a desert. I don't know what it is. A dune. I don't know. That's so reminiscent of Kevin Spacey and Brad Pitt driving. It was almost like
oh, here we go.
Right. It was almost like they stole that scene from 7. It was on purpose. Even the era, 90s. And that's another thing that I like. The whole vintage vibe, the cars, the music, just the style.
Where's your cell phone? I was like, please, someone get a cell phone.
Oh, wait, we didn't have cell phones in the 90s.
And then COVID, I'm like, don't touch the phone. Don't touch the phone. Don't touch the phone. Don't touch. No, that's a pay phone. Don't touch that.
Phone, right? And so what was cool about this is one of the movies that was released by Warner Brothers theatrically and through HBO on the same day with other 2021 films. So you're right. I would be curious to see, like, how did it perform in comparison to how it would have done in the theater. I would have gone to the theater to see this just because I'm a sucker for a crime thriller, like Who Done It and Ran. But then in the same breath, that was what was so unique about this film, the ending, right? We did not figure out who did it. And so there's this huge cliffhanger. I mean, for a minute.
I'm unsatisfied right now.
Right. But for a second, I thought Rami Malek could have done it because he just looked so creepy as well.
Yeah.
And there was a split second that I thought maybe Denzel. And I was like, nah.
That's how, you really didn't know at that point. No. Like, maybe. Because then, I guess we're giving spoiler alerts here, of course.
Sorry.
No, but when they show why he had to leave the precinct is because he shot a woman, and he was just dealing with that in his head, all the trauma from that, and by accident he shot her, and that made me think about that. How many cases could there have been, when they were chasing a serial killer, and by accident they shot him and then put that as another death? On this serial killer, and then that kind of throws all your evidence off. And it blew my mind. I was like, I never thought about that like that. I was like, that's a crazy thing, because I'm sure it's happened.
It's not far-fetched. That was a cool backstory, though. Denzel's backstory, right? To speak to his motivation and why he was so connected. I enjoyed seeing the 3 of those men, those actors, and their chemistry. Like the scene. First of all, my favorite scene was the first time Denzel and Jared come face to face when Denzel is shining the flashlight in his face, and then we see Jared in all his creepy glory
Yeah.
as Sparma. I mean, that was beautiful. I think I rewinded that twice just to absorb Sparma's creepy energy, and then the scene with them in the investigation room,
Yeah.
and just seeing the dynamic between all three. And my God, that was dope. I enjoyed this film. Again, I think my expectations were the ones that failed me, not so much the film.
Okay.
But all in all, I think it was good. It was written well too, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you would have just said maybe it wasn't a Denzel movie, right? Maybe if you don't say any of the stars, just say the titles coming out, the little things, and just like flash to all the like death scenes. Then I'm like, oh, yeah. My brain just goes somewhere different.
Right.
I would love to see Denzel and Jared Leto do something again, because you nailed it on the head. That on-screen chemistry, they had it. And it was, I was like, oh, maybe we can see something else with them, and really pull it out. So I still would. I recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, don't go with all that like expecting the world given to you.
Expecting training day. You're not getting training day now.
No, you are not. You are not getting training day. You are not.
Denzel is 66. You're getting a different version. Denzel. Let's be clear.
I mean, come on, admit. I think he can get his abs back one more time. I think he can do it one more time.
I don't think he's interested. I don't think he's interested in getting his abs back. Are you kidding? That's his son. Let's leave it to David. Okay.
Jones. All right. Just one more. Just for everybody. One more time. Just one last time.
I wouldn't hate on it. I'd watch. I'd watch it. Yeah. All right. So moving on, we are talking about Lupin, which is a series on Netflix, which is actually creating quite a buzz, or has been creating a buzz. I think it's one of French films that have made Netflix's top 10, which says a lot about it. And it's starring Omar Sy, who's my latest obsession. This man is beautiful, big, strong Black man. God bless him. And it's a retelling of the classic French story about Arsène Lupin. He was a world famous gentleman thief and master of disguise. And so Lupin, or rather Arsène, he's seeking revenge for his father, who was once framed for stealing a necklace from a powerful family that he worked for. So Omar's character just kind of assumes this sort of mysterious identity, part gentleman, part thief, as he avenges his father's death. This is my first time getting wind of Omar Sy, hearing about him, seeing him, and I was intrigued the entire time. Seriously.
Tell me more, Omar. Tell me more.
And I wasn't just drooling over his aesthetics, but I was pleasantly impressed by his acting skills and his presence and how he commanded the screen. And he's legit. Like, where has he been? Like, come to America, Omar. What'd you think about Shut up. What'd you think about it?
All right.
Forgive me.
America. All right. No.
Not for me. Just so we can.
No. Just for everybody. Right. Yes. I actually just watched this by accident. You recommended it after. I was like, oh, I already saw this. So it was good. I wish though they would have just dubbed instead of dubbing it. I'd rather just read the subtitles. Have him speak his French, and just do his thing from there. He's a French actor, so I'd rather hear that and then read. Sometimes I hate subtitles, but this movie had so much suspense, and I've been in a lot of places he's been to in Europe, so I was like, oh yeah, I've been to the Louvre, I've been there. I was like, oh, this is great. The only knock I have, me, I gotta give one knock, on something. The brother is 6'3" and 250. All right, okay, all deliciousness, but who are you fooling, man? Come on, this. You can't change that many times. No one's gonna remember you. 6'3", 250. Come on.
That's what makes him a master at what he does. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Well, when
that would only work in Europe. This movie doesn't last 1 week in New York City. He is not going to. He's not going to the Met. He's not going to the Met and stealing anything. I'll tell you that right now. He's gonna be locked up the first.
When he was in the museum, like he had the cat, like he was kind of incognito a little bit, right? Like no one was ever really in his face outside of his co-workers in the basement,
Again,
right?
6'3", 250.
But then again, they all think we look alike, so who's paying attention?
All right, I'm just saying 6'3", 250.
Right.
You remember in 6'3", 250.
I get your point. Yeah, but I did think that the voiceover, the dubs were pretty okay considering other films I've watched on Netflix where it's just painful. Whoever dubbed his voice did a great job.
And that's kind of disappointing too, because now I expect that to be his voice in a way. I'm like, is that your voice or not your voice? But the storyline was great. You know, we've watched all these films and the backdrop, especially of Europe, and movies that take place there, and to see his relationship with his father, you know, what that family did to him and his relationship, and trying to just figure himself out and just try to find out what really happened, and knowing that his dad wasn't that thief, but then he becomes that thief later. So it's very interesting, just that whole dynamic. And with the family, right? That relationship she had with the daughter and how that was still going on, but then he still fell in love and had a son. And so you're seeing all these relationships intertwine with each other. But Hubert Pell, who's the bad guy in this, the protagonist, he's an evil man. He's very, very evil man. I mean, you know, his father killed himself. I mean, that's
yeah.
And you still don't care, like, you know, what you did to this man. So it also shows the value of us back then and now, you know, what's going on. Like, oh, we'll just throw this brother out, even though he was just doing a good job. Yeah. You know, so it always reminds you to be mindful, no matter who let you into your home. Always know your place.
Don't get too comfortable.
Yep, they will set you up in a second. So
yeah, and I thought it was interesting that while it was this white, powerful, wealthy family against this Black family that's not as well-to-do, they didn't focus on race, right? It was more so like class and socioeconomic status, not so much about race, which was nice for a change, right? So we almost forgot that it was this Black-white dynamic, but really it was just about one family who'd wronged another. The only one scene where they alluded to some race thing was when, remember the scene with Pellegrino's wife? She's in the car, it's raining, her car stalls, and young Omar is with his father, and she doesn't reckon, and she goes to the door like, oh, Black man, don't rob.
256.3, yes.
Right. No, but he was a little boy and his father. So that was the only kind of thing that made me think like, okay. But then they kept it moving. Yeah. But I think overall, so apparently Omar Sy is a huge actor in France, like huge, right? So, and he's from Senegalese, or rather his parents are from Senegal. His mother is Senegalese, and I think his father is Mauritanian, if I'm not mistaken, or it's the other way around. But he was born in France, right? So it's this big Black African man. And so I'm digging his acting skills, right? And so great segue into the third film, which is also an Omar Sy film, also on Netflix, and it's called The Intouchables. And we can interchange here between Lupin and Intouchables if you want to. And so what led me down to Intouchables is obviously after I'd seen Lupin, you know, Netflix curates just based on what you're watching. So what came up, and I was like, what's this? And Intouchables came out way before Lupin did. And you put me on into something I didn't know. What's the backstory with Intouchables in terms of Kevin Hart and all that jazz?
Kevin Hart did the reboot of this as well. So originally, the guy who this is, it's a Spanish guy who Omar plays. So it was never a Black guy. So,
right, it's based on a true story.
Yeah, based on a true story. So the original guy was never a Black guy. So they did it with Omar, which is, I think, better than the Kevin Hart version. And then Kevin Hart did his version with Bryan Cranston and Nicole Kidman, and it's called The Upside. So it's a little different. Again, same job, same thing. He's going through a struggle. He has to get a signature one more time. So it shows I'm getting at least going out there and trying to get a job. And then he winds up helping this guy out just because he was different. But there's so many other twists and angles that I love about The Intouchables that they touch on. It was more of a love story, right, at the end, and friendship. And so the upside has friendship, but Untouchables, there's a balance of love because he wanted him to find love at the end of the day. And that's what Omar's character is trying to do. Is like, hey, this guy's looked out for me. I feel like I have a friend. There's a bond there. But also the fact that he can never, be with somebody anymore. And he tells him about how it happened, his accident, that he gets aroused and people play with it. That was a funny part when people play with his ears. And he's like, I got you, play. I got you.
The chemistry was good. The chemistry was good between them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were great. They were great on screen. And then he's just his natural environment. I was reading the subtitles, which is perfect. That's what I like to see him in that light. Unlike Lupin, where I'm like, okay, that's a dub. It's not a bad dub, but it's still good. But then I just love that we're seeing Black characters in all these different roles, right? And in Europe, you normally don't see that. You either get like one like scene in a movie, but now you're seeing us doing heist. I mean, not that that's positive,
but still, to see a Black man play a James Bondish type of role is
how to do that and do characters. That's crazy. Black people, you can adapt and do. Oh, that's it. So it was very nice to see that. Normally, you have to have some big star that does that, but it was nice to see like an ordinary Joe, at least on our end, from an ordinary Joe. He's big in France, but to sort of see that and adapt to that character and do like a National Treasure kind of movie or do an Ocean's 11 kind of film, where he's there, he can disguise and do all these types of things. And he's also educated as well at the same time. He's reading, he's showing you these are the books that inspired me to be somebody, or at least go out there and get what I want. And now I know how to use and manipulate people to do that. And sometimes we're always being the ones being manipulated. So it's kind of cool to see that twist.
Yeah. My favorite thing about The Intouchables was the premise, right? So Omar's character is a caregiver, and he's taking care of a wealthy aristocrat who's quadriplegic, right? He can't feel anything from the neck down. He's wealthy, big, beautiful house. Omar's character comes from the projects. He's been in prison for the past 6 months, and he's down and out. And in order to survive, he has to make some decisions. So they end up hitting it off at the initial interview, right? And I think humor in music is what bridges that gap between them two. And I think that was what's the name of the guy that plays Francois Cluzet? That's his name.
Philippe.
Philippe. And so he immediately sees the charm in Omar's character. And I think that's when the quote unquote buddy romance starts. And so we just kind of see that play out in the next hour and however many minutes. And it was just a very natural acting process. I enjoyed watching the French, listening to the French dialogue, but reading the subtitles. And there's something about reading subtitles that for me, I'm glued in, right? I can't turn away. I can't be on my phone. Like I need to focus and not miss a beat. I love that Omar is a comedian in addition to being an actor because he's very natural with his humor. Like it didn't seem forced or contrived. It just came across like, okay, I now would love to see him in a stand-up bit. Like he's a comedian. I imagine there's a stand-up bit somewhere out there, or maybe one is coming. And I hope to God he speaks English. Like we had this conversation before we got on.
He doesn't speak it. He just speaks English.
Right? Please, I hope he speaks English. Because that would be, an interesting take on what he sounds like.
Well, there's always something about big guys that are funny.
Yeah, right.
I usually steal a room because I'm funny, I'm charismatic, I'm dancing, doing stuff. But when a big guy comes in and does that, it's like I have no chance. No chance. Big guys steal all the time. Yep, they can take over a room like that. So he's very charismatic, but also there's a loving characteristic to him, as a person. Like even though you're like, oh man, don't do that or don't do this, but you're like, you still felt for that character. You were rooting for that character to win. And sometimes you don't always do that, but this one, I was like, the whole time, I was like, oh, yeah, this is good. And then I'm like upset. I'm like, no, don't leave. Like, you guys had a good thing going. Like, why would you do that? And then that's where I'm talking about that relationship comes in. Because we have that sometimes where we have a great time with somebody and that experience, but then we have to move on because either jobs have taken us away or just experiences of like this was like, oh well, I lived that life. I don't need that anymore because I'm not growing from that, whatever. But you kind of regret the happiness that that person or that situation brought you, and then it takes like 5 people to like, all the people you went through just like don't understand that kind of chemistry, and you can't force that. Oh, I'm gonna be like this guy. I'm gonna be like, no, you got to just be yourself, and that was great about his character is that he was himself, and that was so lovable. It's like, hey, want to smoke a joint? All right, hit that, brother. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, that's what we're doing.
They definitely had
him and his relationship with the redhead, that was funny.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, Audrey is her.
That was pretty funny. Especially my favorite scene between them was when he just randomly was in a hallway and he's like, come here, just come here for a second. And then let's take a bath together. What are you talking about? But again, his comedic.
You were like, I'll take a bath. I'm ready.
Absolutely. Let's go. I'm derobing immediately. But his comedic timing is superb. Again, going back to his stature, not that every big guy is funny, but in order for a big guy to be funny, like he needs to be genuinely humorous. I don't know what it is about size that can come across a little doofy, but he just maintains a certain air of coolness while saying something fun, like across the board. And so the contrast between his character in Lupin and his character in The Intouchables is like you see the dynamic range, and it's kind of dope. It's kind of dope. I think that's what drew me to him. Not so much what he looks like, but like what he's able to deliver as an actor. That says a lot. Like his commitment.
Yeah, because there's some serious scenes in both those.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, okay, all right, prove it to me now. All right, I've been laughing with you now. Show me what you got.
Right.
And he hits it. He hits it out the park. And that serious face and that whole tone, to go back to Lupin with his baby's mom, and they're talking and just, I was going to say baby's mom. It's not that type of show. But anyway, he's talking to the mother of his son and about their relationship and just, being able to just slow down and just really be intimate and talk to her about, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to do this for us and for him, our son. And then also when he's playing back and forth with the cop and he's like, hey, I got you under surveillance. I know what you did. And he has that serious tone, but it's also playful. So he's able to go in and out, right? In a conversation. That's nice too, just to have that range.
Yeah. And then he also plays a father in Lupin, right? So we see this soft side to this, thief, for lack of a better word, like a what's the word I'm trying to say? I can't find it. But we just see him in just different layers in Lupin, and then we see him on the complete opposite side of The Intouchables. And again, the chemistry between him and Philippe, his character and Philippe, was so genuine. Like I was not expecting to tear up watching The Intouchables, but I did. Also, the music in The Intouchables was pretty good. Omar's character is a big music head. So like we got a bit of Earth, Wind and Fire. We got a bit of just like a little bit of everything, from classical to R&B to, it was.
This was really my film. I played the cello as a kid.
Okay.
So I have a lot of classical background. But then I've also seen Earth, Wind and Fire in concert.
Okay.
When I used to live in Hollywood at the Bowl, and that was one of the most amazing concerts of my life.
Really?
Yeah. So if you, two of them passed away from the big band of all family, but they are one of the best shows you'll ever see. Earth, Wind and Fire. They put on a show for everyone. Doesn't matter if you've never heard them before. You will be dancing by the end of. But after the second song, you'll be dancing.
Nice. So this was really your movie. I think it captured.
It did. It hit every sort of pitch and kind of energy you're feeling, right? To wind down the week.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, good feel inside. All right. Now I feel like I gotta help somebody.
I mean, when you think about, and so this is something that the film did really well, giving the audience a perspective of what goes into caring for a quadriplegic, right? Or completely helpless. So Omar's character really made sense in terms of his size. It would take somebody really strong to be able to lift up another grown man and put him in his chair and put him here and there. So that was a good dynamic. Seeing that, and then there were these scenes where you would see Omar's hand on Philippe, who's obviously white and French, on his cheek, and so then it's this contrast of beautiful dark and then white. There were so many little special things about this.
Well, trust was the biggest thing, right? Is that trust?
Oh my God! Considering Driss, Omar's character, is an ex-con. Like, I don't know that I would have been opening. I would have. I don't know that I would have opened up my home to an ex-con. I don't care what color that you are, but no. So to see that side of Philippe, that he's just grateful to have somebody that doesn't take pity on him, and that was what was so charming about Driss. Driss treated him like he wasn't a whole quadriplegic, right?
Exactly.
But that was also what was so funny about their relationship.
Remember the haircut and he's shaving his beard, and I was like, "Yo, don't do that." That
was hilarious.
And again, they haven't hung out in a while, so they took a break from each other. Sorry, they took a break from each other, so they're hanging out, and he's like, "Oh, let me cut your face. Let me shave you up a little bit. You look rough." And then he gives him all these different looks, and then like when he does the Hitler one, I'm like, "Oh, come on, man."
And they went on with that bit for a minute, and I was like, "This is starting to get."
Is it okay for me to laugh now?
Right.
Or is it just
right? Yeah. So all in all, it was a great, great film. A new actor for us in the United States to look out for, Omar Sy, S-Y. Definitely check out his stuff on Netflix. So I feel like we had a really good list of films, like a good range of emotional arcs.
I'm emotionally drained. Yeah, it's been tough.
Yeah. Any last words before we wind this down?
That's a good question. Oh, I asked somebody on one of my shows, and I said, "Hey, what do you plan on doing when all this has settled? When you're allowed to go out in the world, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. What's the first thing you get vaccinated? What's the first thing you're gonna do?"
Okay. What did they say?
I'm asking you.
Oh, that's a question for. Okay,
that's a question. Yes.
You set up that question completely differently. I thought you were going to tell a story.
No, but that was a question. But I'm asking you now to end the show.
First thing I'm going to do?
Yeah. Some people say go to a club. Some people said I'm just going to just spend time with myself. Like, what are you going to do? The first thing you do when you're vaccinated, you can go out in the world and do whatever you want. What are you going to do?
Probably go to a bar or a restaurant. Well, I just went to a restaurant, so maybe not. A bar, like with some music, not a club. But maybe a club or a lounge, and I'm just talking shit at this point. I'm just gonna stay home and keep on doing what the hell I've been doing.
If someone's like, "You better keep your ass home, stop playing."
I mean, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Do you have some big spectacular plan?
It's the first time I can travel out of the country. I'm in.
You could have been traveled out of the country.
No, but I mean, like it's different. I don't want any restraints. I want to be able just to go and just I don't want to have to quarantine. I don't want to do all this stuff. I want to go and be myself. But I actually said basketball is one of the things I miss. I used to play pickup every 2 weeks with a bunch of my guys, so we're still on like a text thread.
Okay.
But it's just that camaraderie of like basketball. If anybody plays sports, it's just like, it's been like a year since we played. I've seen some of them like, "Woo, bro, you better get in the gym, start running, stop playing."
Well, how are you going to deal with friends? Like, are all your friends going to get vaccines? Like, how are you going to deal with those that don't want to get vaccines? How does that work?
One of my friends said he's not going to get vaccinated, and I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Well, I already had it. In and out. I'm really clean, immune system." But I'm like, well, it's not always about you. It's about other people, right? And so if you're carrying that, I'm thinking about your mom, your grandmother, your, other people's family. So again, I'm gonna wait till the good vaccine comes out. Of course, I'm not gonna just go and jump on anything. Don't get it twisted. Okay. But when I do get the good stuff, by then I figure we'll get it by the summer. Okay. So by then I'll have some good stuff. Maybe it'll give me a little tan, a little glow, and stuff like that. That's what I need right now. Just that glow where you've been somewhere. That's what I need right now. I just need a little hint. Like, oh, all right.
Need that.
Where you been?
I get it. Hopefully I'll be going away in April. That trip I was supposed to take in November, but I didn't quite make it. It's good. We're gonna try that again in April.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to Puerto Rico in March.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So,
good.
Yeah, 1 week.
We're both getting away, so that's good.
All right.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, good show. Good talk.
Always.
And see you next week. Same time, same place. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye, Ro.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.